For the most part, 20s and 30s, I could see being single as, a viable option. Sure. 40s, maybe 40s, 50s, sure. But at some point, you're going to be 60, you're going to be 70, you're not going to be desirable. So then what? What's who's going to be at your bedside? All the guys that you railed over the years?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They're not going to be there.
They're not going to be there.
What is your stance on women utilizing OnlyFans in order to make money?
Prostitution is the oldest occupation in the world, right? Isn't that what they say? You go back 30 years ago, you're like, you know what? I want to be a porn star. You would get all sorts of looks like, who didn't love you enough, right?
Yeah.
Now it's just widely accepted. $6.6 billion.
That's a lot of money.
Right? That's just on OnlyFans, and then now you look at all the other sex workers out there, escorts and prostitution and strip clubs and all that stuff. I mean, it's got to be near 10 billion
or more, yeah.
Right? So I'm just saying it's been around for a long time. Now it's just accepted. What are these girls going to do with the rest of their life? At what point does a family fit in? If you've been so deep into OnlyFans, I just don't see how anybody can ever have a real relationship. I look at OnlyFans and I'm like, they pretty much threw away their life. And they can say, I make 6 figures and I make 7 figures, whatever, fine. I mean, does none of that factor in?
Also too, does it make these women less desirable to hire if they ever want to get out and be like, I learned my lesson, I want to, come into the real world and get a real job? Do you think employers are going to look at that and be like, nah, we don't, that's damaged goods, we don't want to hire?
I don't think it makes them unemployable. I really don't. I think in today's world, anybody that's willing to put the work in, I think is willing to, employers are willing to hire on. So I don't think that employers are going to discriminate against that. I'm talking about more about
family.
Like, I mean, you're used to making 6 figures, high 6 figures. You're making all this money. When you want to have a relationship, you're going to have to find a guy that's okay with that, or you're going to have to give it up altogether. And then what are you going to do to duplicate, that income? You started doing OnlyFans when you were 18 years old. Mm-hmm. You have 0 gifts that you've developed over time. So now let's say you're 30. You have nothing to offer. You've done nothing for the last 10 years, 12 years. So you're pretty much going to get an entry-level job somewhere, and now you're making $60,000. It's
a slippery slope. I mean, that's to assume that they're not doing other things outside of OnlyFans, right? Like they could be taking classes or something just to we don't know. But I think overall it does mess them up mentally, as we've seen with a lot of sex workers who've even come out. And there was that one girl, Mia Khalifa, but she was a very prominent figure in that world. The depression, the abuse that she discussed went behind the scenes. It's like there's so much more than just what we see, but all the other things going on around them, the environments that are in, the people they're around, what's going on in here. And for her, it's been extremely hard to get jobs because everyone recognizes her because she was that big of a figure. So now it's like, okay, I'm recognized. People know who I am, and everyone's going to be asking about it or feeling comfortable around me. I don't think a lot of these women think about that in the long run. Like, how is this going to affect every ounce of my life? And then finding a decent man who's going to respect me, not get insecure about those things that I've done. And then what about kids seeing that shit on the internet?
Yeah.
That's another thing too.
You've heard of teachers starting OnlyFans, and it gets around school. And, the teacher's, kicked out of school. He doesn't have a job. I don't have a big opinion on it. Like I said, sex work has been around since the beginning of time, and it's going to be around forever. It's not going anywhere. Now it's just become more mainstream. Now it's just accepted.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Normalized. I mean, it's normalized. Yeah.
It's normalized. I'd like to ask these girls, what is the end game? What's your, and you're just going to make a lot of money. You're saving, you're investing, I guess, and you're just going to make a big, war chest of cash and resources. But at some point, don't you want to settle down? Don't you? I mean, I don't know. Or are they just gonna be like, hey, I'm just gonna go single the rest of my life? And
some people,
yeah. For the most part, 20s and 30s, I could see being single as a viable option. Sure, 40s, maybe 40s, 50s, sure. But at some point, you're gonna be 60, you're gonna be 70. You're not gonna be desirable. So then what? What's who's gonna be at your bedside? All the guys that you railed over the years.
Yeah.
I'm saying
they're not going to be there.
They're not going to be there. So who's going to be at your agent? who you're. I just don't. That's the part that I think about. But I think like any 20-year-old, you're probably thinking, 60s. You know,
I just want to make money right now. I just want to have fun and live my life.
But the end game's gonna come quick.
Yeah, I just don't necessarily blame the woman per se. I also blame the men who are consuming this garbage, because I look at them too like they're not desirable.
Yeah.
Because you're paying a lot of money to see other women.
Sure.
Like, even though you're not committing the acts and posting that kind of stuff, you're still consuming it, which to me is also like, you're not a desirable man.
So yeah, so is that a no-go zone for you? So if you meet someone and he's subscribed to OnlyFans?
If he is looking at OnlyFans and he's subscribing and all that, that is a hard no. Gaming's also a no for me too.
Sure.
If you're just sitting there like playing video games with no. Like, I can go and watch football games and we can hang out and do that kind of, but like video games glued to the couch like that?
No.
If you have a subscription to OnlyFans or a porn account, that is a hard no. Because that shows me too that you don't respect women.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
I look at a guy, you don't respect a woman's body. You don't even know this woman, right?
Yeah.
You can't find a woman to fulfill your own needs. You can't find someone that you love that can fulfill whatever it is you're trying to get fulfilled. So I do judge men too. It's not just women, because if there weren't the clientele for it, the women wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. I just wish that women didn't feel the need to have to go there.